Hello everyone, my name is Ryan with Astrology by Ryan, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this exploration of the archetype of the threshold, one of the most potent symbols of transformation and transition. In this video, I'll be drawing on the treasures from the Archive for Research in Archetypal Symbolism, ARAS, to illustrate how these universal themes appear across different cultures and eras. Then I'll show how these same patterns are woven into astrology, revealing how our birth charts mirror the liminal moments in our lives, from the Ascendant as our gateway into physical existence to the 12th house as the realm of surrender and release. This series is all about seeing how archetypal images, brimming with history, myth, and cultural significance, resonate powerfully with the celestial movements that shape our earthly experiences. I invite you to join me on this journey as we discover how stepping across each threshold, whether literal or symbolic, can open doors to deeper self-awareness, personal growth, and spiritual insight. Let's step through together and explore the profound wisdom that lies on the other side. Archetypes are the bones of the psyche, the enduring structures that shape our stories, myths, and dreams. They are the guardians of universal meaning, appearing across cultures and epochs, from the sunlit temples of ancient Greece to the shadowed recesses of the human imagination. The ARAS collection provides a treasure trove of archetypal images and interpretations, serving as both a mirror and a guide to the depths of the collective unconscious. In this series, I will use astrology as the lens to examine these archetypes, bringing them into dialogue with the planetary rhythms and celestial patterns that inform our existence. Astrology, much like the archetypal images preserved by ARAS, is an ancient symbolic language. It maps the sky's shifting currents onto the human experience, revealing how the movements of planets and luminaries correspond to our internal landscapes and external realities. Each planet, sign, house, and aspect carries archetypal significance, a role it plays in the cosmic drama of our lives. By aligning the archetypes explored in ARAS with astrological principles, we can uncover profound insights into the thresholds we cross, the challenges we face, and the transformations we undergo. This video focuses on the archetype of the threshold, a universal symbol of transition and transformation. A threshold marks the boundary between worlds, inside and outside, past and future, mundane and sacred. It is a place of initiation and uncertainty, where the familiar fades and the unknown beckons. As ARAS describes, the threshold symbology ranges from the ritual crossing of a bride into her new home to the spiritual journeys of pilgrims entering a temple, or the mythic gates to paradise and the underworld. Astrology, too, is rich with the symbolism of thresholds. The Ascendant is the threshold of selfhood, the point where the soul enters the physical realm. The 12th house represents the threshold of dissolution and surrender, where the ego prepares to release its attachments. Planetary transits, lunar phases, and eclipses all mark thresholds of growth and transformation, asking us to cross from one state of being to another. In this video, we'll examine how the archetype of the threshold manifests through specific astrological frameworks. We'll look at the planets and houses that represent key transitions, explore the significance of lunar and solar cycles, and reflect on how astrology offers guidance through life's pivotal crossings. Whether you are a seasoned astrologer or a new astrologer, this cosmic language, this series invites you to connect deeply with the archetypes that shape your journey. Together, let's step across this threshold into a space of insight, reflection, and transformation. In its most literal form, a threshold is a doorsill, and often crafted from humble materials like wood or stone. Yet this physical boundary holds a power far greater than its simplicity suggests. The threshold demarcates outer and inner, serving as the gateway through which one must pass to enter or leave a house, temple, or tomb. Across time and cultures, this act of crossing has become infused with profound symbolism. A threshold is not merely a boundary. It is a space of transformation, a liminal zone where identities shift, roles are redefined, and the sacred is encountered. Around the modest threshold, a rich and widespread symbology has flourished, affecting each facet of life's transitions. Bridal and funeral customs, for instance, often center on the threshold as a marker of profound change. The tradition of carrying a bride over the threshold speaks to this space's liminality, its ability to signify a passage from one phase of life to another, from maidenhood to partnership. Similarly, funerary customs often treat thresholds with reverence or fear. In some traditions, the deceased are not carried out through the door, but rather through a window or a specially cut hole in the wall, a practice meant to confuse spirits and prevent their return to the living. This acknowledges the threshold as a portal not only between physical spaces, but between life and death, the known and the mysterious. In the Old Testament, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, the symbolism of thresholds carries a weight of divine protection. The Hebrews smeared lamb's blood on their doorposts so that the angel of death would pass over their home. Here the threshold becomes a site of profound interaction with the sacred, a barrier that demarcates safety and vulnerability, life and death. This idea finds echoes in many cultures where doorways and thresholds are consecrated to protect against malign influences. The threshold's sacredness extends into acts of reverence in temples across the world. Entering often requires deliberate rituals to honor the boundary one is to cross. Whether it is removing shoes before stepping into a mosque, reciting prayers before entering a church, or bowing one's head to touch the threshold of a shrine, these acts recognize that to cross into a sacred space is to step into the presence of the divine. The threshold here is not merely a physical marker, but a metaphysical one, delineating the boundary between the mundane and the sacred. Sacred thresholds are not confined to the material world. They exist in the imaginal and mythological realms as well. Cultures worldwide have envisioned doorways to paradise, heaven, or the underworld, often guarded by imposing figures or spirits. These thresholds mark the journey into otherworldly states where the soul undergoes profound transformation. In Greek mythology, the gates of Hades are such a threshold, crossed by heroes and gods alike on their journeys of descent and return. These mythic crossings reflect an archetype found in astrology where Pluto governs the descent into the underworld and the rebirth that follows. Again, in Christianity, Christ's resurrection represents a cosmic threshold. The New Testament describes Christ breaking down the gates of hell, symbolizing not just the defeat of death, but the opening of a passage for all humanity into eternal life. Christ is described as the ultimate doorway, a threshold through which one crosses into salvation and a sanctified existence. This transformation mirrors the archetype of Neptune in astrology, which dissolves boundaries to connect the individual with the divine. Astrology, with its celestial language, mirrors the archetypal power of thresholds. Each point in an astrological chart represents a boundary or transition, an energetic threshold marking a unique domain of experience. The Ascendant is the ultimate threshold of identity, the boundary between the soul's infinite journey and its physical manifestation. It marks the moment of birth, where the spirit crosses into earthly existence. Just as stepping over the threshold of a house initiates one into the protection of the household spirit, the Ascendant initiates one into life's roles and challenges. The midheaven signifies a threshold of achievement, the passage from private life into public recognition. Crossing this boundary involves claiming one's place in the world, much like the sacred thresholds of temples invite individuals to step into alignment with higher purpose. The descendant represents the threshold of union, where the self meets the other in partnership. It echoes the bridal threshold, symbolizing the moment when two paths converge into one. The IC, or the Imam Cheli, embodies the threshold of roots and origins, the passage into the sanctuary of home and ancestral connection. It mirrors the sacred crossings into familial and spiritual sanctuaries. The symbolic richness of thresholds lies in their liminality, their nature as spaces of in-betweenness. A threshold is neither here nor there. It is both and neither, a moment where the past lingers and the future beckons. This is why crossing thresholds has always been accompanied by reverence or caution. It is a moment when the ordinary dissolves and the extraordinary becomes possible. In rites of passage, thresholds are central. Initiations often take place at literal or symbolic doorways, where the initiate leaves behind an old identity to step into a new one. Whether it is the adolescent crossing into adulthood, the soul passing into the afterlife, or the seeker entering the divine, the threshold serves as the axis of transformation. In astrology, this is most clearly seen in eclipses, which function as cosmic thresholds, moments when the ordinary flow of time is interrupted to allow profound change and realignment. Thresholds are universal. They are woven into the architecture of our homes, the structure of our myths, and the movements of the heavens. They teach us that every crossing is a moment of potential, a space where transformation is not only possible, but inevitable. The ancient fear of stepping directly onto a threshold reflects a recognition of its power. To pause, to honor the space before crossing, is to acknowledge the profound significance of transitions in our lives. Whether we are entering a temple, embarking on a new phase of life, or navigating the transits of planets, the threshold calls us to be present, to reflect, and to prepare for the change to come. It is not just a doorway. It is a moment of grace, an invitation to step into the next chapter of our journey with reverence and intention. Through this lens, thresholds, both literal and symbolic, become sacred markers of the rhythms of life, connecting the mundane to the celestial and the personal to the universal. Each planet in the astrological pantheon carries with it the essence of a threshold, a unique doorway through which we must pass in our journey of growth and transformation. Saturn, the cosmic gatekeeper, guards the boundary between the known and the unknown. With its austere rings and slow, deliberate movement, Saturn reminds us that every transition demands preparation, discipline, and sacrifice. Crossing Saturn's threshold often feels like stepping into the unknown, facing endings that pave the way for profound new beginnings. It is the threshold of maturity, where we take full responsibility of our actions and learn the lessons of time. Pluto, by contrast, is the alchemist of the zodiac. Its archetype transforms, annihilates, and rebirths. To cross Pluto's threshold is to surrender to metamorphosis, to descend into the underworld and return utterly changed. Like the mythic Persephone, We pass through the dark and emerge with the seeds of new life in our hands. Pluto's threshold is the ultimate confrontation with our shadow, demanding we release what no longer serves in order to reclaim our power. Mercury, the celestial messenger, is fluid and swift. It embodies the thresholds of communication, commerce, and thought. In mythology, Mercury is Hermes, the guide who escorts souls across the boundary between life and death. He moves effortlessly between worlds, bridging opposites and revealing the liminal space where meaning is born. Mercury's thresholds invite us to rethink, renegotiate, and reimagine how we connect with the world and articulate our truth. The sun, radiant and central, represents the threshold of selfhood and creative expression. It is the vital force that animates us, illuminating our purpose and identity. To cross the sun's threshold is to step into our own light, to claim the courage to shine and to embody the hero's journey. The sun reminds us that thresholds not only are about endings, but also about the birth of new potentials and personal sovereignty. The moon, tender and reflective, is the threshold of emotion, intuition, and the soul's cycles. Its waxing and waning phases reveal the ebb and flow of growth and release, teaching us to honor the rhythms of our inner world. To cross the moon's threshold is to trust in the wisdom of feelings and to find sanctuary within the shifting tides of life. Venus, the planet of love and harmony, offers the threshold of connection, beauty, and value. To step through Venus's doorway is to reflect on our relationships, how we give and receive love, how we appreciate beauty, and how we define what truly matters. Venus teaches us that thresholds can be softened by grace, turning transitions into opportunities for collaboration and balance. Mars, bold and assertive, stands at the threshold of action and willpower. To cross Mars's threshold is to embrace our courage and confront challenges head-on. It is the fiery energy that propels us into battle for what we desire and defend. Mars reminds us that thresholds require decisiveness, strength, and a willingness to take risks. Jupiter, expansive and generous, holds the threshold of growth and opportunity. To pass through Jupiter's gateway is to step into a wider horizon, to trust in abundance, and to embrace the lessons of faith. Jupiter's thresholds are moments of optimism and exploration where we are called to expand our minds, hearts, and beliefs. Uranus, the Great Awakener, governs the threshold of innovation and disruption. It is the electrifying force that breaks us free from old patterns and propels us toward radical change. Crossing Uranus's threshold is rarely subtle. It demands we embrace the unexpected and find liberation in upheaval. It is a doorway to authenticity and visionary insight. Neptune, mystical and boundless, represents the threshold of dreams and transcendence. To pass through Neptune's portal is to dissolve the ego and merge with the divine. It is the threshold of surrender, where clarity gives way to mystery and reason is softened by imagination. Neptune invites us to trust in the unseen, to allow ourselves to be carried by the currents of intuition and spiritual connection. Another, Chiron, the wounded healer, marks the threshold of pain and healing. It is the bridge between the mortal and the immortal, the place where our deepest wounds reveal our greatest strengths. To cross Chiron's threshold is to face our vulnerabilities and find the wisdom within them. Chiron teaches us that every transition holds the potential for healing and transformation. Each planet offers us a different perspective on thresholds. Together they weave the archetype into the fabric of the cosmos, showing us that these crossings are not the moments to be feared, but embraced as the natural rhythm of existence. Every planetary threshold marks an opportunity, a chance to grow, to heal, and to step into the next chapter of our journey. Through astrology, we learn to honor these thresholds, finding meaning and guidance in the celestial patterns that mirror our own. Across the world, the crossing of thresholds has been marked by rituals and symbols that echo the universal archetypes reflected in the astrological houses. In the Hellenistic whole sign system, each house represents a particular domain of human experience, acting as an energetic threshold we encounter throughout life. By examining cultural practices through this lens, we can uncover a deeper understanding of how humanity collectively experiences and honors transitions. In Hellenistic astrology, the first house, or horoscopos, the Ascendant, governs identity, physical appearance, and the very act of stepping into life. It represents the threshold where the soul manifests into physical existence, defining how one is perceived and how one begins their journey in the world. Among the Krobo people of Ghana, the Dipo ceremony beautifully embodies this archetype, a coming-of-age ritual for young women. The ceremony marks the crossing from girlhood into adulthood. Participants undergo symbolic acts such as bathing in sacred rivers, donning ceremonial attire, and receiving guidance on their new roles in society. These rites reflect the first house emphasis on self-presentation, identity, and the pivotal moment of stepping into a new phase of life. Just as the Ascendant initiates the natal chart, the Dipo ceremony initiates an individual into a new chapter of existence. The fourth house in Hellenistic astrology is the realm of roots, home, and familial lineage. It governs the deep foundation of our lives, our connection to ancestors, the sanctuary of the home, and the emotional grounding that sustains us. In Chinese culture, the Qingming festival, the tomb sweeping day, exemplifies the fourth house archetype. During this festival, families visit the graves of their ancestors, cleaning the tombs and making offerings of food, incense, and flowers. These acts honor familial lineage and reaffirm the living's connection to their roots. Just as the fourth house serves as the foundation of the astrological chart, the Qingming festival underscores the importance of remembering and honoring one's origins, ensuring that the bonds of family remain strong across generation. The seventh house traditionally governs partnerships, unions, and open enemies. It is the threshold where self meets the other, where through marriage, collaboration, or conflict, the house emphasizes balance, mutual respect, and the integration of opposites. The hand fasting ceremony practiced in ancient Celtic cultures of Europe reflects this archetype. During this ritual, couples symbolically bind their hands together with cords, sealing their union and marking their entry into partnership, often conducted at a literal threshold or sacred site. The ceremony illustrates the seventh house focus on creating harmony and committing to shared endeavors. Hand fasting reminds us that crossing this threshold requires humility, balance, and a willingness to acknowledge the other as an equal counterpart. The 12th house is the house of dissolution, mystery, and retreat. It governs the unseen aspects of life, places of confinement, and the surrender of the ego to the greater whole. It is a house of profound spiritual transformation where one lets go of individuality to merge with the collective. The Hopi Kiva ceremonies of North America resonate deeply with the 12th house. Kivas are subterranean chambers symbolizing the womb of Mother Earth, where participants engage in spiritual communion through storytelling, prayer, and ritual dance. Entering a kiva involves descending into a space of darkness and mystery, mirroring the 12th house's call to leave the external world behind and explore the depths of the soul. These ceremonies teach participants to embrace the unseen and reconnect with the spiritual currents that guide life. The 9th house represents faith, philosophy, and long journeys, both physical and spiritual. It is the house of expansion, where one ventures beyond the familiar to seek higher knowledge and divine connection. The Yake initiation rituals of the Quechua shamans in the Andes are a profound reflection of the ninth house. These rites, which include fasting, sacred plant ceremonies, and vision quests, prepare apprentices for their roles as spiritual leaders and guides. Participants embark on transformative journeys that expand their understanding of the cosmos and their place within it. Just as the ninth house encourages exploration and the pursuit of wisdom, these rituals embody the courage and openness required to cross into the new realms of understanding. The sixth house in astrology governs service, daily labor, and physical health. It is associated with preparation, humility, and the acts of care that sustain both the individual and the community. In Australian Aboriginal culture, the preparation of bush medicine reflects the sixth house archetype. This communal act involves collecting, processing, and sharing herbal remedies to heal the body and spirit. The labor-intensive nature of this work, often undertaken with sacred intent, mirrors the diligence and discipline required in the sixth house. These practices underscore the importance of serving others and the spiritual enrichment that comes from caring for the well-being of the whole. These cultural examples illuminate the profound universality of thresholds and their alignment with the astrological houses. The first house, we talked about the Depot ceremony, marking the beginning of selfhood and identity. The fourth house, we talked about the Qingming festival, honoring the roots and familial sanctuaries. In Europe, the hand fasting ceremonies embody commitment and partnership of the seventh house. In North America, the Hopi Kiva rituals explore the mystery and spiritual transformation depicted in the archetype of the 12th house. In the ninth house, we can look in the South American Yache rites, expanding the understanding and connect with the divine. The sixth house can be seen through the Australian bush medicine preparation and how it reflects acts of service and care. Each example demonstrates how the themes of the astrological houses are not abstract concepts, but living archetypes deeply embedded in human culture and tradition. They show us that thresholds are not merely points of transition, but sacred markers of growth, reflection, and transformation. Through astrology, we can better understand the wisdom inherent in these rituals, honoring the ways they guide us through life cycles and connect us to the cosmos. By crossing these thresholds, whether literal, symbolic, or astrological, we step into new realms of experience, enriched by the lessons of the past and inspired by the possibilities of the future. The moon, ruler of the tides and keeper of time, moves through a continuous cycle of thresholds. Each phase she offers a distinct lesson about the nature of transition. The new moon is the first threshold, a moment of birth, stillness, and potential. It is a doorway into a new cycle, a quiet pause before the waxing light begins to gather. Here, the threshold invites us to plant seeds to imagine what could be. As the moon waxes, she carries us towards fullness, gathering light and energy. At the full moon, another threshold appears. This is the culmination, the moment of clarity when the fruits of our intentions are illuminated. Yet, as with all thresholds, the full moon does not linger. From its peak, the moon begins her descent, crossing into the waning phase, where release and integration take center stage. Eclipses, those dramatic alignments of sun, moon, and earth, are thresholds amplified. They mark moments when the veil between worlds grows thin, when cosmic patterns align to nudge us toward transformation. An eclipse is not merely a shadow. It is an invitation to step boldly across a threshold we may have hesitated to approach. The threshold appears in countless myths and rituals, each echoing the astrological archetypes. In ancient Greek culture, the temple threshold was sacred, a place where worshippers removed their sandals or offered prayers before entering the divine space. In Christian tradition, Christ's descent into hell and resurrection symbolize the ultimate crossing, a threshold from death to eternal life. These rituals reflect our deep understanding of thresholds as sacred. They remind us that transitions are not only personal but collective, woven into the fabric of human experience. Astrological transits and progressions offer a map for understanding the thresholds in our lives. When Saturn transits a natal planet or angle, it creates a profound threshold moment. This is a time to reflect, to let go of what no longer serves, and to step into a new phase of responsibility and growth. Progressions, too, reveal the unfolding of our personal thresholds. The secondary progressed moon, for instance, moves through phases that mirror the natural lunar cycle. Each phase marks a crossing into waxing energy, into fullness, into waning reflection. These progressions teach us to see our lives as cyclical and each threshold leading seamlessly into the next. Thresholds, whether astrological, physical, or metaphorical, are not barriers. They are invitations. To cross a threshold is to accept the gift of transformation, to step boldly into the unknown with the faith that grows through awaiting on the other side. Astrology, with its rich language of symbols, teaches us how to honor these moments. It shows us that thresholds are not solitary experiences, but part of the greater cosmic dance. Each chart, each transit, each planetary alignment reminds us that we are never alone in our crossings. The heavens themselves guide us, illuminating the path with their eternal light. As we navigate our own thresholds, may we remember the wisdom of the cosmos. May we step forward with courage, knowing that every ending is a beginning, every descent a preparation for ascent. The threshold is not a place of fear, but of grace, a reminder that life's greatest transformations are born from the spaces in between. Thanks for watching. I hope you've learned a little bit about thresholds and the archetypes as they apply to astrological context and astrological symbology. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, join my mailing list in the link below. Looking forward to connecting with you all again next time. Until then, keep your eye on the sky and make a wish upon a star.